Welcome back to another reading and correcting. With me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger's supervisor. These are where I read a chapter of one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you're looking for a way to support me, it's on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 28 of A Familiar Death. The front area of Jexka's clinics was louder than the previous time Ms. Marlot had been here. There had to be 20 patients waiting to be seen in the waiting area, talking among each other or playing on their pads. Most were prey, with only 3 predators sitting among them. The prey seated close to them seemed a little nervous, but they didn't have other seats to move to. Unlike hospitals, private clinics weren't no predation zones, so medics only saw either predator or prey. Jaxka, being somewhat immune to predation due to being poisonous, meant he didn't pay too much attention to that, counting on the fact that while they were sick, predator weren't thinking about food, and if they were and tried something, well, that was why Jaxka receptionist was there. Do you have an appointment? The muscular rhinoceros asked, eyeing them suspiciously. We're not here for treatment, Marlot told her, smiling pleasantly, not showing teeth. He placed the refrigerated box on the counter. We're dropping this off for Jaxka. He already knows about it. Name? She asked, typing. Registered investigator Marlot Blackclaw. Yeah, here it is. I'll give it to him once he's done with his current patients. You've made arrangement for him to contact you? Yes, he has my number. We took care of all that earlier. Marlot turned and his lion was watching the reception area. Everything okay? He asked Trembor. They're making me hungry. Trembor answered. Breakfast was a while ago. How about we head to the office while we wait? There's still meat in the freezer there from what we brought in at the start of the week. You can check in with that guy you have looking over our territory. I'm not going to bother him since we're not staying. Once we're back for good, I'll let him know and he can tell me if anything happened. Who do you have looking after yours? Just Nibble. Really? I didn't think you'd gotten along with her. Marlot smiled. She might grate, but she's good. The drive was uneventful. Trembor navigated him around the worst of the construction. As they got out of the car, he checked the status of the lock on their office. Unlocked, as expected. Elahan would be there, taking in calls related to ongoing case and forwarding them to Cyril and Jesnabel if needed. He didn't expect her to be that busy. She normally talked with the enforcers, and they'd know the temporary transfer of territory. Citizens with information might call, but Marlot only had one case that was in that sweet spot of not being too old or too new. Not being too new or too old that people had an interest in. He currently had 3 bodies in his freezer, Trembor had 2, which put them in the average for RI in the cities. Only one of which was too old they didn't expect to ever find the killer. He entered and stopped. There were 2 elephants there, where he expected one. Elahan was mostly hidden, leaning against the back wall, her large ears having a distinctive pink hue. That could be because the other elephant, a little larger than her, but with smaller ears, had his trunk under her unbuttoned blouse. Trevor cleared his throat. Making the 2 of them and Marlot jump. And what do we have here? He asked, grinning. Elahan hurried away from the male, flustered and buttoning up her blouse. She straightened her dress. Mr. Goldenmane, Mr. Blackclaw, I wasn't expecting you back today. Who's your... Trember canted his head. Friend? Marlot studied the male, who turned to face them. His skin was a little darker, his tusks a foot and a half long, with some scrapes along them from a fight some time ago, Marlot guessed. He was wearing black canvas pants with a white shirt and tan jacket. He looked at them with a nonchalant and cocky smile Marlot didn't like. This is Jesden? He's friend? Marlot took a step forward, narrowing his eyes and growling softly. Trember grabbed his arm. Easy there. Maybe you should find out what's going on before doing something drastic. The interruption was enough to bring him back to his senses. Elahan had gone pale, and while her friend still acted relaxed, his smile was gone. I'm sorry, she said, her tongue jittering all over the place. I know this is inappropriate behavior. Trembor chuckled, and Marlot had to agree with his reaction. Elahan had to know some of the thing the two of them got up to in their office. So they certainly couldn't judge her. That didn't mean Marlot wouldn't judge him. He disengaged his arm from his lion and went to stand before the bull elephant. He still acted calm enough, like having a predator this close wasn't a big deal. Marlot breathed in the elephant's scent. He was nervous. Marlot would have seen that through the act without the scent, but that wasn't all. Took his time cataloging the smells, not taking his eyes off the male. When he was done, Marlot wasn't particularly happy at the lust he smelled on him. He looked the male over, noting the calloused hand, broad shoulders, and overall solidity. Let's get something straight, Marlot said, keeping his voice calm. I can smell your intentions toward her. The bull looked at Elan, and when he looked back to Marlot, he didn't look as calm. Marlot smiled, showing teeth. So, what I need to know is just how serious are your intentions? Is this just about having some fun, or are you going to treat her with respect? The elephant swallowed. I'm serious, sir. Very much so. Marlot looked to Elan, who nodded, holding her protesting trunk in her hand. Good. Marlot took a step back. Her safety is in your hand now. You better make sure no harm comes to her. I'd hate to have to hunt you down. The male's head bobbed up and down so fast, Marlot thought it would break off. And Elahan, Trembor said as the male edged along the wall toward her. Just to be clear, what we walked in on, I don't mind, but the door should have been locked. It could have been one of the body's relative who walked in on you and your friend, and that would have been inappropriate. Yes, sir, she answered. It won't happen again. She took Jezdan's trunk in hers and led him to the door. Is it safe for me to pick you up after work? The male asked. I'll call you when I'm done. They pressed their forehead together for a moment, then she left. She walked back to her desk, not looking at either of them. I am so embarrassed you saw that. As soon as she sat down, her trunk was rearranging the items on the desk. It's no big deal, Trevor said. Really, it isn't. After all, you've seen Marlot and me kiss. Marlot's ears burned as the comment brought the memory back. They hadn't just been kissing when she walked in on them. They'd been in the process of undressing each other. Fortunately, they'd only had their shirt off by that point, but the next few days, neither her nor Marlot could look at each other without blushing. Trembor had found the whole thing hilarious, of course. Elahan's ears were a deeper pink now than when Jezdan had been exciting her. It isn't the same thing, sir. Isn't it? The lion asked, feigning ignorance. I wouldn't know. I'm not familiar with elephants' courting behavior. How about you, Marl? Marlot shook his head, as much to clear it of his own embarrassment as to answer. I promise it will never happen again, sir, she said in earnest. All right. Trevor's smile made it clear he didn't believe her, but if it does, I think you won't have to worry about your big brother there overreacting. Trevor leveled his gaze on Marlot. I won't, I promise. Put his doubt about the male aside. I think he's a good male. How long have you known him? She beamed, but her trunk grabbed her pad out of her pocket and put it on the desk, then moved the styluses from one side of the computer to the other. I knew him when we were younger, but it had been a few years since I'd last seen him before 2 months ago. She smiled wistfully, and her trunk settled. I'm glad for you, Trevor said. Is there anything we need to deal with? We're going to be here for most of the day. No, sir, everything's quiet. You know you don't have to sir us, right? Trembor said as he squeezed her shoulder. You've worked for us for long enough. I'm Trembor, and he's Marlot. Yes, sir, she answered, completely serious. Trembor shook his head in amusement and pulled Marlot along with him to their office. Remember, Marlot called to her, grabbing onto the door. If he gives you any problem, pad me, and I'll deal with him. Trembor pulled harder, and with a yip, Marlot lost his grip. With the door closed, his lion shook his head at him. Can't believe you're still embarrassed about us kissing in front of her. He leaned in and nipped at his neck playfully. Marlot gasped. That wasn't just kissing. A few seconds later, And? His lion asked. Marlot pinned his lover against the door with a growl, and instead of answering with word, he showed him what she would have caught them doing. It was a good thing their office was soundproofed. And this concludes chapter 28 of A Familiar Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story as well as the other books in the series, they are available from all major e-retailer. If you want another way to support me, that's on my Patreon, where you can also get access to just about everything I've written. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.